Studio by my guests. I have on my left Elvis Darko, who is the editor of the Finder newspaper, and I have for the first time on this show with me on my right Nana Otuo Echampong, who is a banking consultant. Let me say good morning to you, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, and it's good to have you here. I don't know, have you ever been on any of our morning shows? Because I normally hear you on radio. Yeah. Yes, okay. Fantastic. It's good to have you here. Okay. And Elvis, how are you doing?
Nah, I'm good. Yourself?
I'm well. After Friday's news, how have you been feeling?
It's a mixed feeling. Yes. It's sad that we've seen local companies grow to a certain level, and some of us had hoped that they will do a good job to become those big corporates that we all want to be proud of. But unfortunately, we are reading news and information that suggests that they do not really deserve to continue to be in existence. And for me, it's a mixed feeling, because while I sympathize with the workers of these institutions that may be losing their jobs, I sympathize more with the ordinary Ghanaians who save their money with these institutions, and for over a year now their lives have been shut down because they can't have access to their own money. And if you hear stories that people have told of what they suffered because they can't have access to their money, it's mind-boggling. It's complete traumatic experience that your mother or father or daughter or somebody close to you so sick, you took to the hospital, they say they need surgery, and you are asked to produce money. The money you are asked to produce, you have more than that locked up in a financial firm, and you can't have access, and you lose that person. It's such a sad situation that people who invested with some of these institutions have found themselves in. And for me, that is the core of the issue. I think public discourse is focusing more on the shareholders, but I think public discourse should rather focus more on the situation that individuals who have invested money with these institutions have found themselves in all of a sudden. Somebody has gone on pension and invested maybe his entire pension money in some investment instrument with one of these institutions, only to wake up one day and say, all the work we've done in your life and your entire life savings that you've kept with these institutions so that you can get something for your life is gone. And for 1 year or 1.5 years, you've been trying to chase these people and you can't access it. Sometimes I see videos on social media and people who are customers go to the place with their beds. They want to go and sleep in these places because they can't get their money. People are being evicted. But look, the stories are just too many. And for me, I think public discourse should consider and focus on those people whose monies have been locked up all this while, rather than focusing too much on the shareholders.
Elvis, I'll come back to you. Now, let's delve into this issue, Nana Otuo Echampong. The thing is, it's this weekend was just, fascinating reading with all the history of, the banking sector, financial sector, and all of this. Initially, the cleanup started in August 2017. We've traveled 2 years down the road. The main banks have been cleaned up. We've gone through the microfinance and microcredit. Now we are dealing with the savings and loans companies. They claim that we've finally come to the point where we are done cleaning up. Is it true? Are we done cleaning up?
Absolutely. First, let our viewers understand the system that we are dealing with.
Okay.
We are dealing with a financial system which consists of 4 main blocks.
Okay.
You've got the deposit-taking and non-deposit-taking side. Then we have the capital markets, we have the insurance market, and then we have the pensions market.
Okay.
Now, the exercise that the Bank of Ghana is doing is to do with one of the 4, which is the deposit-taking side.
Yeah.
In the deposit-taking side, there are also 5 subsectors.
Okay.
i.e. universal banks, savings and loans, finance houses, rural banks, and microfinance. Now, the challenge that he experienced in the deposit-taking side was preceded by an asset quality review that was done in 2014, 2015, which established that most of the institutions were just mere sheets of paper, that their performance were so bad that something had to be done. Now, in an ideal theoretic situation, all 5 groups should have been resolved at the same time. But for the fact that the government of the day had promised that nobody would lose a penny in the resolution, it had to be done piecemeal. So it started with the universal banks. There were 36 of them. It was resolved and ended up with 23. Some 1.46 million customers didn't lose a penny of their deposit. Some 13 billion of taxpayers' money was used in the exercise. Next stage, the regulator moved to the bottom bit, which is the microfinance. Some 347 were resolved.
Yes.
I don't include the microcredit. No, because the microcredit is not deposit taking. They are money lenders. So they lend money. So in fact, when I saw that they've been added, I questioned the regulator and said, what business have you got to do with somebody who is lending money? And they said, well, they are not dissolving them, but they've asked the registrar to dissolve them because they were insolvent. Okay, so let's stay with the deposit taking.
Okay.
So these 347 were resolved. Some 1 billion was allocated for the resolution. To date, we are told by the receiver, who was on your other channel on the radio, that they have paid some 38,000 customers, and they are still validating the others to pay. And now, Friday came this news that the last bastion has been resolved, i.e. the savings and loans and finance houses.
Yes.
So, this is, yes, a piecemeal approach. It's brought some untold hardships, but then what is the alternative? Is the alternative better? The alternative is no better, because if there hadn't been a government intervention to try and save depositors, the bottom line after the asset quality review would have been to allow these institutions to simply collapse. Even if you take the microfinance, the 347, 155 of them had already ceased trading. I know about 10 or 15 in Kumasi who just one day they closed their shops. And I remember one of them, a Roman Hill. Customers just walked in, and if they can get hold of a TV, they carried it. If they can get hold of a chair, they carried it. What are you doing there? Because they have my money, you know. So, I mean, is that the sort of system you wanted? No. Okay. So, in as much as, yes, there has been problems, the non-resolution of the last bastion was also causing problems because of intermingling of deposit. In one of the universal banks that was resolved, when you took money there, say 1,000, they decided to allocate part to their investment arm, which is under SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. So when the resolution was done, it took the liquidators some 6 months before they could reconcile to see of the monies taken from depositors, how much of it was in the bank and how much was it in their investment arm. You see, and I started by giving a background that we have 4 different sectors of the financial system.
Yes.
Now, the deposit-taking side has now been resolved, and the next one will be the capital markets.
Okay.
And Reverend Obamitete is seriously the one who closed down NAM1.
Yes.
Is working on that to get that also resolved. Again, the intention will be to minimize the effect, because see, somebody has taken your investment, and we have a fine definition between deposit and investment. With investment, you are gambling in a way. You can lose everything or you can gain everything. And so the advice is normally, if you can't afford to lose the amount, don't invest it.
Okay.
You see, and so with the investment market, there will be some losses there. If already Elvis is unhappy that there's been problems in the deposit-taking side, it'll probably be far worse when you go to the investments and the capital market, so I think all in all, some good work has been done, and because the alternative is no better.
But some would argue, and to me, Ami here, who I'm sure you know well, is saying that, look, the cleanup is definitely not over because some amount of money was invested by a government to shore up 5 of the banks, 5 of the big banks,
and so the gas one.
This is ADB, NIB.
That's the gas banks. Yes.
So the issue is, if they are being supported, then they are definitely not standing on their own. So the cleanup is not over. That's one argument.
Okay.
And then also, what happened to the rural banks? You've dealt with all these other people. You've left the rural banks.
Yes. The rural banks is a special case in the sense that their problems are not too financial, they are administrative. You see, when the 13 institutions were resolved to reduce the figure from 36 to 23 for the investor banks.
Yes.
The common thread that we found was poor corporate governance.
Okay.
And therefore, Bank of Ghana came out with a document on 27th of December called Corporate Governance Directive 2018. Now, from January, every director of a financial institution has to undergo an annual certification program. And I'm glad to say I lead the one that we're doing for the investor banks. And when it came out, there were tenuous caps put in the tenure of MD, director, board chairman, So board chairman, for instance, you can't be board chairman for more than 6 years. You have to give way. Director, no more than 9 years. MD, not more than 12 years. When this came out and the rural banks, heard, and you know how rural banks are formed. Normally, 1 or 2 rich people in the village will come together, bring their money. So board chairman becomes for life. So when they heard that now there's a cap, they say, oh, if that's the case, I don't mind, I'll step down, but I brought my money. So I'm going to take my money. So Bank of Ghana said, please hold on. We are going to give you a watered down version. So as we speak, the Corporate Governance Directive is being dispensed to only the investor banks and the finance houses and SNL. So a special one will be done for the rural banks because they are a special kettle of fish. Now there are 144 of them spread in the 10 or 16 regions of Ghana. Now the role they play is in fact supported by external bodies like the World Bank and IMF because they help financial inclusion. If you go to a village, mention any village, Fanchinebra, you will see that there will be no universal bank there or even a savings and loan, but there's likely to be a rural bank there. So the problem they have, the regulator has said they are going to resolve them administratively with their primary regulator. In the rural banks, they have 2 levels of regulation. The apex, that's the primary regulation, and the Bank of Ghana, that's the secondary and overall regulation. So he said, together with the 2 regulators, they will see to resolve the problems that they have. If it's injection of capital, then they will do it. If it's corporate governance, they will do it. So I think, to me, it is complete.
Okay, so is it no longer a problem that they can't meet the banks we talked about, the ADB and IBC, so they can't meet the cap that the minimum that
they won't meet. I mean, negotiations are far advanced, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 1 or 2 of them will sign on the dotted line this week.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So you are confident that we're out of the woods on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me come to Elvis. Elvis, over 2,000 jobs.
On that, last week we read that ADB is opting for private placement.
Yes.
So how does that fall in line with the GATT?
It complements what guards will be bringing in.
It's going to complement what guards will be bringing in.
Yeah. Because they've got a lot of jobs at hand to do.
And I mean the possibility of NIB also going through some private placement is high.
Well,
because these are state banks, and therefore the state is finding ways trying to support them, which did not offer to the private banks in a way. Anyway,
okay, so Elvis, over 2,000 job losses.
Yeah.
How are we going to survive this?
We will survive it.
Meanwhile, the government actually has been touting, Ignatius Bafwewa has been touting 600,000 plus jobs created. It almost sounds like a treadmill effect where you're running forward, or apparently running forward, but you're actually not physically moving anywhere. We're making jobs.
Who ran down the banks? Is it the government?
No, I'm just saying that it's a national.
Let's talk about the job losses in the right context.
Okay.
In every economy, jobs are lost and created on daily basis.
Okay.
So everywhere jobs are. That's why I had a little problem with the minister's presentation. He talked only about jobs created, but he didn't give us the jobs that were lost during the same period.
Okay.
So it's a one-sided statistics because that would have given us the opportunity to know what the situation is.
Yeah.
But for job losses, they are done every. That's why in very advanced country, they have what you call the employment exchange. So that at the end of every month, they report the number of people who have said, I've lost my job, and those who said, I've gotten a new job.
Yeah.
So that they will know whether they are creating more jobs than those who are losing their job, or more people are losing their jobs than the jobs being created. And then it involves government policy as to the way forward. So for job losses, they are inevitable. But as I said, I sympathize with anybody who loses his or her job in this country. And in this circumstance, I sympathize with the workers, because the question is, all the infractions that we are talking about that have led to this thing, these workers at the lower level have actually not played any role in some of these things. And therefore, if the inefficiency or whatever, or whatever happened for these institutions to be where they are today, then majority of these people who are losing their jobs today actually did not play any role in those breaches. Those breaches. So I really sympathize with them. But the question is, who ran down who caused it? Is it the government that caused it, or the people who are supposed to run this who caused it? So if we are talking about the job losses, let's put in the right context. The government did not cause what we are talking about. If we follow and believe what the central bank has put out as the causes of the fall of these banks, then obviously it is not the making of the government. It's the making of the people who are supposed to be running these institutions, who did not follow the laid down regulations and encountered challenges, and we are where we are. So if there are job losses there, let's understand. In America, when the banking crisis happened, over 130,000 people lost their jobs. 11 trillion has gone down the drain. So everywhere in the world, even you know that if banking issues happen, definitely banks were going to lay off a lot of people. So let's pray that the economy can pick up, create jobs, so that they can find new jobs. And if you lose your job, you have to be looking for a next job. But the question is, are the jobs there for you to go and look for? And that we know that it's a big problem in Ghana, looking for a job. That is why I sympathize with them. But I also sympathize with the people whose monies have been locked up for over a year and they can't have it. So if the intervention by government will create an avenue for those whose deposits have been locked up to have access to all or part of their money, I'm all for it. Because we are talking about millions of people whose monies have been locked up, they can't have access. And we want to be emotional about 2,000 people losing their job as against over 1 million or 2 million people whose monies have been locked up for over a year, they can't have access to it. So let's do the netting. Let's also sympathize with the people. If we want to keep 2,000, 3,000 people in a job, and then 2 million people can't have access to their money. But the finance minister said in the mid-year review that between the savings and loans companies and the banks, there were 2.6 million depositors. And these are people whose money have been locked up for months. They have been trying to have access, they can't have access. So are we saying that keeping 2,000 or 3,000 people in work and these people's money continually remain locked up is the best way to go? 2.6 million as against 2,000 or 3,000 people? Please, let's be real. Nobody wished that anybody should lose his or her job. But let's be real in these circumstances. If government is intervening to make sure that 2.6 million people will get part or all of their deposit, I will take it than to say, let's keep the institutions locked in that situation, and for eternity of a perpetuity, 2.6 million people should not get their money because we want to keep 2,000 or 3,000 people in employment. So you see, let's look at both sides of the issue. It's like the discussion is always focusing on the shareholders and their employees. but you've forgotten that they are only managing monies that belongs to the people who send their deposit there. Yeah. So if those people are telling stories that send chills through your spines, that I have so much money here, I needed just a fraction of it to do this, but I can't get it. And for 6 months, for 1 year, I've been chasing this institution, they still say they don't have money. Do we want those people to remain in that situation for how long? So you see, I don't pray that people lose their job, but in this situation, if I do the balancing, it is better for them to have this situation where 2.6 million people can get part or all of their money than to say they should continue to be in that emotional trauma while we keep 2,000 or 3,000 people at work. That's my position, and I think that it's a fair position to say that 2.6 million people should be helped rather than say we want to keep 2,000, 3,000 people at work and keep 2.6 million people still in that emotional trauma. I don't think that is helpful to the nation. And we should look at the systemic risk it poses to the economy in general. We seem to be focusing on those who lose their jobs and then the shareholders. But we are not talking about the systemic risk that this even poses to the economy. The governor and the finance minister have said that by the time they are finished, we are spending like almost 21 billion. That is over $4 billion. We are chasing 2 billion from China, and it is 2.5 years we are still chasing. And we are saying that we are going for loans in the name of Ghanaians to raise 21 billion to be able to clean this up. If there is any recommendation, the government should be commended for taking such a bold step, because they could have said, well, we didn't ask these people to mismanage your money. Let them collapse on their own, file for bankruptcy, let liquidator liquidate them, let them, whatever they find, let them share for them. And you realize that it will be far worse if you allow these things to go through the area of liquidation. It will be far worse for us. Because it means that majority of the people will lose everything or will lose a larger part of their money. Because most of these institutions, remember, some of them have even closed down. Some of them have no money. People have 150,000, they go and so take 50 cedis and take car home because we don't have money to give you.
All right.
And this is the situation we are talking about for 2.6 million people.
All right. Thank you. Well, we need to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll come back and talk about other ramifications to all of the things that are going on. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back. Keep interacting with us with the hashtag Breakfast Daily, and also our WhatsApp line is 0550585832. Let me come back to Nana Otue Champon. The conversation is exciting. There are concerns of political witch hunting, that maybe the government is targeting its opponents and the banking financial institutions belonging to its opponents. What's your take on this?
Negative. Now,
you don't believe it?
Before, I don't believe it.
Okay.
Before then, I wanted to make a contribution on Elvis's contribution.
Okay, go ahead.
About some 2.6 million customers having their monies locked up. No. It's in as much as it's regretted, the figure is in the minority. It's the minority, not the majority. The 1.46 I quoted, I said those people's deposits have been saved and they've got their money back.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't say they haven't got. That's to do with the universal banking sector. The 38,000 I quoted for the microfinance, they have got their money back. You know, although there's a ceiling there of 10,000. So, you know, it's admitted that, yes, there are some pockets of, you know, customers that are facing challenges. But sometimes the problem also emanates from the way the records of even the financial institutions were kept. If you read through this document that Bank of Ghana issued on Friday, you see that some of them, their record keeping was even suspect. And in the universal banks that collapse, we keep asking what is the role of the auditors in all this. In other jurisdictions, there has been serious repercussions on the auditors, you know, because they've been fined several millions of dollars and pounds. But here, the ICA, which is the body that audits, they told us some 2 years ago that they've launched an investigation, and maybe their report will come out tomorrow. I don't know.
So in this case, will the auditors be from the Bank of Ghana, or will the auditors be external auditors?
External auditors. External auditors. About that, you know, because if a bank was trading with non-existent capital, as was alleged in the case of 3 of the collapsed banks, that they obtained licenses under false pretenses. Where are the auditors, and what do they say to that?
Okay.
But that's besides the point. The question that you wanted answered was specifically...
Yes, the political angle, where some people think that the government is deliberately playing a card, you know, in terms of setting up the political scene to reduce the financial capacity of their opponents.
Oh, I doubt it, because as we speak, I don't know whether any political party owns any bank, at least. No,
but you know, there are political
out.
actors who own banks.
Well,
so you know, the party per se may not own the bank, but there are political actors
who own the bank. I think we have to look at it. I mean, I look at things practically, and from the practical perspective, an important point has been made by Elvis, and he continued to harp at it. At the end of the day, when you have a bank, the typical capital structure of a bank is 83-17. That is, 17% of the capital is from the owners. 83% is from the depositors.
Okay.
So when you so banks are treated differently from manufacturing or other commerce activities. So in a typical bank, the people's money far exceed your own money. So it may be political actors or whatever. If they have situations where the monies they have in there is far less than the monies that other people have put in. Look at the list that was produced on Friday for the SNL, the negative capital. The total half year is what, 1.752 billion, right? Wow. First Allied alone had a negative capital of 661 million.
Ouch.
And this is an institution which is supposed to have a minimum capital of 15 million. And then you've gone into negative 661. You have UniCredit, 221 million in negative. First Trust, 175. It goes on all the way to ASN Financial Services. So the issue is the other people's money that is the reason why we have a regulator to ensure that they take care of those who haven't got a voice and they speak on their behalf. So I don't buy into the political actors,
argument. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the question comes to mind. What's the Bank of Ghana's responsibility in all this, in the sense that for a lot of these companies have been in existence for quite a few years, so and Bank of Ghana has looked on in many cases as some of these things went on. So yes, there are the issues of the external auditors, but then there's also the regulator and his responsibility. So what do you say about that?
No, the regulator hasn't shied away from responsibility, and the governor has been on record at more than 2 or 3 MPC meetings, and Elvis has been there, when he has confirmed that their staff who are found culpable will be dealt with just as the non-staff or those who are not members of their staff. And when IOCO was doing the investigation, they did call some former and current staff of Bank of Ghana. On their side, they admit they had what you call regulatory forbearance, where they relaxed a little bit because, for instance, why should a company, a bank which doesn't have the capital, be giving liquidity support? So you are adding insult to injury. And but those are the sort of things that they used to do, and now they say they are not doing that anymore. So if they slept on the job, now they say they are weak, and they are going to ensure that they apply the regulation as it should be. And so, to me, I think we are on the right track.
GN Savings and Loans says they are challenging the revocation in court. Do they have a basis?
Well, why not? It's a free society.
Do you think it's going to go anywhere?
Negative capital, according to BOJ, it was 30.7 million. Okay. They claim that they are owned by government.
Yes.
And there's no doubt. But let's understand what banking is. Banking consists of three parties. Those who have money but don't know how to use it, so they give it to a bank.
Yeah.
Those who don't have money but they know how to use it, they go to the bank to borrow. So bank is an intermediary, intermediating between those two parties.
Okay.
Now, negative capital 30 million. Government owes you 1 billion. But you and I have taken our money to that bank. Tomorrow, God forbid, mom or dad dies, you need money to go to a funeral. So you go there and then the bank tells you, oh, your money is with the government, they haven't paid me. So you wait, maybe put your mom in the mortuary for 1 year. When the government pays me, this is not banking.
Okay.
You see, banking is, you've taken people's money and as and when they need it, they should be able to get access to it. You know, what Evans referred to, that people have been in trauma because they can't get access to their money. So they have a case. The court, when you have a dispute in a democracy, you get an adjudicator who is a judge, and they will listen to party A, party B, and then decide who is right. So if they are challenging what Bank of Ghana has done, nobody should step to be in their way to go to court. The court will decide as to whether they shouldn't have been closed down or they should have been closed down. But at the end of the day, we should understand the principles of banking, that we leave our money with the bank to hold in trust, and whenever we want it, you know, there are cases where people put the money in the morning and the evening they want the money back. If you say that I've given the money to government, what has it got to do with me? I just want my money. I didn't ask you to give it to government. So that is my take on that.
Elvis, giving money to the banks, they are holding it in trust for you. Are there going to be any managers that will be fired, prosecuted?
Before I come to that, let me say, the 2.6 million, the finance minister said this, so I want to be sure. Is a government's intervention to reform the banking sector has saved 3,000 jobs, adding that deposits held by more than 2.6 million individuals and institutions have also been saved. This is the mid-year budget, that's the finance minister.
Yes.
So when I say 2.6 million, this is where it's coming from. And I'm saying that if not for the intervention, it means that these people will still be chasing these institutions for their money without any hope. So the fact that it's been saved because of the government intervention. So if the government has decided that it won't intervene, they should collapse, file for bankruptcy, be liquidated, the situation will not have been what it's talking about. So the 2.6 million individuals and corporate institutions.
You still stand by that?
It's hard to say. It's finance minister who said in the mid-year review budget that they have been saved.
What you said was that those people are still struggling. They can't get access to their money. And I'm saying initially 1.46 was saved. They got their money.
That is for the banks.
To them.
Yes, but for
now, the rest,
the bank finance
are being paid.
Yes, they are being paid. They have not been paid. They have not been paid. But my point is not about.
It's a process. So
my point is that the banks, the institutions that have been closed down, did not have this money to pay the people. So without the government intervention, the payment we are talking about wouldn't have happened. So the situation would have remained the same. That is my point. That without the government intervention, I'm making this point in relation to the fact that people are more concerned about the people who are going to lose their jobs and the shareholders as against people whose money would have remained locked up if the government had not intervened. That is my position, my point.
I understand that.
As for the Bank of Ghana, if there are no prosecutions, nobody will be satisfied. Because taxpayers' money, public funds have been used to pay them to do a certain job. And they have failed woefully to do it. In fact, the law on causing financial loss to the state need to be applied. No, how can you be paid all the benefits that do a job, and you don't do the job, and you have caused the state these huge losses because of your failure to do your job well? For whatever reason, you have failed to do your job well. That is why we are where we are. And yet, the government needs to go and take 21 billion to clear all these things, and nobody will be prosecuted. For me, I will never be happy if Bank of Ghana officials, people who are responsible for this, if they are not prosecuted, I will never be happy with the central bank. So the cleanup is incomplete unless it is linked to prosecution of Bank of Ghana officials. That one, there's no doubt about it. Yes, it's incomplete. Because, look, we are talking about a very serious issue here. We are talking about a very serious issue here. That people have been employed, paid to do a job. They fail woefully to do their job. We are in a mess, and we are not talking about why is it that you didn't do your job. We have a law causing financial loss, willfully causing financial loss to the state.
Yes.
You have been employed to do a job, you failed to do it, so it is willfully causing financial loss to the state. I think we should test that law again. In this case, how come you have been employed, giving conditions of service, giving what you are supposed to do, and what you are supposed to do, you do not do it, the state has now lost money. We need to try the causing loss, financial loss to the state law once again in this particular case, and let the court tell us if you have been employed to do a job and you fail to do it and there is a huge financial loss, whether you can be held accountable for it for causing financial loss to the state. For me, that is very important because see, if that is not done, the confidence in the central bank will have a problem because people will just say that they are just protecting certain people and hunting others. So for me, it is critical that we do this for both the people who own the institutions and those who have been employed by Bank of Ghana. All of them should be tried on the law of causing financial loss to the state, and let's see where it will end. It's very important because it means that anybody can cause financial loss to the state and go scot-free. And it's not only the central bank. Most public institutions, people are there being paid salaries, big ones, and what they are supposed to, they are not doing. We are making losses as a state, and they go home free on their pensions and still enjoy. So that is very important. You see, because these job losses we are talking about, even if the banks lose 2,000 jobs, they have dependents. And those dependents will also be in trouble. Just this morning, a colleague was telling me that actually some of my brothers have lost jobs, so now the whole pressure is on me. Until they find a new job, I have to be supporting them.
No, the fallout is real.
Same way, this number of people whose money had been locked up also have dependents. If government had not intervened for them to get their money, they and their dependents will continue to be in that traumatic situation. So you see, the situation is big. It's really big. And people are arguing from all angles. But I said, is it better to let the process, they should let them to liquidate, be solvent, go for liquidation, and it is only what the liquidator finds that they will share. Compare that situation to the government stepping in. Because if they are gone for liquidation, no job will be saved anyway. Everybody will be gone home. That is one thing. But we have been told that at least 3,000 jobs have been saved as at now. But if we allow them the way of liquidation, then no job will be saved at all. So we should be comparing these figures and ask ourselves, is it the government intervention that is bad or good? I think for me, looking at all the figures, I think that the intervention is a necessary evil. Even though I wish to see more of these banks or institutions to have become bigger institutions and expand to the sub-region. Where we are today, it is not a palatable thing. And I think that the bitter pill needs to be swallowed so that we can fix a system, and then the regulator will make sure that never in our history
should this thing happen
again. Because what is happening now, over $4 billion can change this economy overnight in terms of a lot of things. But we are just using it to save this particular situation. As Nana has mentioned, SEC has already indicated that those institutions there have, by auditing, there are over 5 billion Ghana cedis that have also been locked up under the investment firms already. So it means that there's another scam also waiting for government to go and find money to go and resolve another big problem of over 5 billion, because they have done their auditing, and as at now, they found that there are over 5 billion Ghana cedis of funds that people have invested, and this is usually they have invested in places and the monies are locked up. So that is another big problem there. And how long can government continue to go and take loans in our names to do these things when private businesses go in this direction? We cannot continue this way.
Let me read some messages from our viewers, and then I'll come back to you on our final story. The president told Ghanaians that he would give them jobs. Now, what are we seeing and hearing? Closing of businesses has been his hallmark. What an incompetent president that Ghana has ever had. This is from Echo in Efiakuma, Takrade. Elvis Darko is just whitewashing the mess that government has succeeded in creating in the banking and financial sector. Panic withdrawals caused by the government's bad and not thought through policies is the reason for the financial institutions not meeting the demands of customers. This is a claim that you're making. I wonder. From Emilia in Asawase, when you campaign wrongfully for a visionless and greedy leader who thinks it should be him, his family, his friends only, you keep complaining of hardships and they push the blame on you, force you to lose jobs, companies and banks, and then give reasons. All they're doing is borrowing more than ever with nothing to show for it. This is what this is what Anado is doing. This is what King Promise has turned Ghana into. All right. The last one. It says, "Good morning, David. Please, the man is telling the truth. BOG bosses are to be called because they have made all this happen." Right? Keep your messages coming through. Now, let me just quickly go back to Elvis on a final story. This weekend, the former IGP was in church. And whilst he was in church, he got an opportunity to speak, and then he made a claim. He said, he made a comment. He said, "Do not over-lobby for IGP positions." This is what he was saying to the senior police officers. Is there over-lobbying going on? And if so, this acting IGP, will he be confirmed as the substantive, or is it going to be somebody else?
Why shouldn't there be lobbying? It has been lobbying all this while, because that's what the Constitution has created.
Okay.
And so there's no way people will not lobby unless we change the situation. And as
change the situation like
as senior police officer Benjamin Agozo has said, he has given us the solution. If we want to get the police service to the level it is, he says change the structure of the police service. Make sure that the police council is not made of political appointment.
Yeah.
Give us that kind of freedom. Make sure that the minister or whoever is it cannot issue any directive to the police how to do their work unless on policy matters. He laid down the problem with the Constitution and said we need a constitutional change to be able to give the police the kind of independence they need to be able to do their work. The president can still appoint the IGP, but then there's various structures that will make sure that the police, where the checks and balances will be enough that nobody can abuse the system. We are not ready to do what he has told us. This is a senior officer who has been in the service for years, observed how things are done, has seen it all. And he's not the first person to have made this comment from the service. Yet as a country, we spent $3 million to do a constitutional review commission work. And the report is gathering dust because it's going to take away a lot of power from the politicians. So they're now willing to implement the recommendations of that report.
Okay.
With these complaints, they will continue to remain just the lamentations of people, because those lamentations will go nowhere, because by the constitutional arrangement, it is impossible to say that somebody should not lobby for the post of IGP.
Let me read a quote from the IGP. He says, "I see, in quotes, the potential of many of you becoming IGPs whilst I am still alive. What I will humbly advise is not to outmaneuver and outlobby for it. You will certainly retire from the service. Do not strive to achieve this aim at all costs at the expense of friendships
but
you have
he
built."
himself lobbied because he retired. How did he get a contract?
No, but
How did he get a contract?
No, but it's not the prerogative of the president.
That's what I'm saying.
No, but what shows that he lobbied?
No, but they wrote to the president asking for a contract to be extended. Is that not part of lobbying? You are retired, you are 60, go home, and you write and say, please extend my contract. It's not part of the lobbying.
No, but
so I'm telling you that
as what?
As IGP, because he retired as a commissioner. He was an IGP. By the time that he was made an IGP, he's retired. He's supposed to go home.
Okay.
But he didn't proceed on a leave prior to retirement and wrote for a contract to remain in service for another 2 years. But we know the constitutional arrangement.
But we know that the president extended his contract. So how do you say he lobbied for it?
Please, the facts are there. It's not me that they wrote.
And where are those facts?
Please, I am saying it. If anybody has contrary information or evidence, you come and challenge me. That's
so
I'm telling you that is the norm because that's the constitutional arrangement.
You're on a platform like this.
It's not that he writing the president is illegal. He is making a claim of lobbying, and I'm saying that his own appointment as IGP was also part of the lobbying because the constitution makes the room for it. So you have the right to appeal to the president that you should extend your contract. It is not that he has done anything illegal. It's an appeal he's making. He's not saying that it's legal. He is saying that he didn't say it's illegal. He just said that people should not overdo it. I'm saying that by the constitutional arrangement and what we have, the person is at liberty to write to the president and ask through the minister that give me a contract. And the constitution empowers the president also to give the person a contract. And the position of IGP in this Fourth Republic, we all know it's about how well you can lobby or who you know. Because every commissioner at a certain level qualifies to become a commissioner, a IGP. And we have seen it in this republic where senior commissioners have been there and junior commissioners have been IGP over them. It runs across in this Fourth Republic. So it's no news that people lobby for IGP positions. And I'm telling you that the IGP will still be appointed, but I am more concerned about the influence that the appointers and other people can have on them if the constitutional arrangement as it is now is not changed. And as I said, a senior officer who has served for years in the service says that if we want to really position the service to serve the people, we need a constitutional change. So we should pay attention to that recommendation. If we're able to do that, then some of these challenges we are having, a lot of them can be addressed. But we are not willing to hold the bull by the horn. And we are going around the issue up and down, up and down. Everybody will take advantage so long as the law allows it, the law permits it, that you can ask the president for a contract. And if the president decides to give you, you stay. So if you have benefited from it, how will you say somebody should not do it? It's an advice. But if the law says this is the process and it doesn't give you that room to do it, how then are you going to do it? So let's listen to the advice of the people who are in the system, who have worked, who think that a constitutional arrangement has created a problem for them. Change it and we can be better. I think that it's better to revisit what Benjamin Agojo has said and let's move on in that direction. But all these lamentations will continue if we don't do what Benjamin Agojo has said.
Okay. Final thoughts on the banking sector as we wrap up on the show. Yes. Where do we go from here?
Well, we move on in the sense that now that the resolution of the sector has been completed, we look forward to a stronger, more resilient type of banking. Now, the universal banks, they've all got the 400 million, and so they got more money to lend now. And with interest rates set to come down, it will be cheaper to borrow. At the same time, when you talk about interest rate, it works two ways. The depositors, it means the money they will get from their deposit will also go down. So the likes of you who has got the millions, when you take
the likes of me, you have a lot of faith.
On the other hand, those who are, looking for money to do business, funds will become cheaper, and then they will be able to generate more activity and, by extension, engage more people into work. So I think the bottom line is it's a good process, and we hope that what happened before will not be allowed to happen again. And this asset quality review, instead of waiting for 10 years to do it, should be as regular as maybe every 2 or 3 years to check that the system. And also the regulator should be held accountable to their promise that they are now weak, and if they do regulation as supposed to be, then the problems will be nipped in the bud rather than allow it to fester before we come to this issue that we have come to.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for that. Elvis, any final thoughts before we go?
Well, as I said, we need the Bank of Ghana to sit up. They are trying to sit up, but they are still not up. Because one of the most serious allegations made against one of the serious.
You are awake.
One of the serious.
They
are not awake. They are still not awake. They are trying to be awake.
It takes time to sit up.
You see, so one of the most serious allegations made against Dr. Indum and his GN Bank is that they transferred $62 million, 718,000 pounds, and 4,200 euros out of this country without the necessary documentation.
Really?
It's in the allegation Bank of Ghana is making against Dr. Indum. It's a very serious allegation for a central bank to make against anybody or any company. How did that happen? Who in central bank assisted them? Because you can't transfer money out of this country without the support of the central bank.
That's true.
So if it didn't happen under their watch or whoever's watch it happened, the question which officers aided them if it is true. And that is the serious indictment of the central bank itself. So if somebody said they are sitting up, I don't know how they are sitting up if they are coming up with serious allegations like this against a company and they think that the focus should be on the company and not them.
Well, you've made a good point. So I'm sure that in their sitting up, they're going to deal with a lot of these issues as well. Well, thank you very much for watching this segment. I was joined by my guest, Nana Otuo Champon, who is a banking consultant, and then also Elvis Darko, who is the editor of the Finder newspaper. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the next segment of the show. Thank you for watching.